difficulty with filming in a bookshop is that I actually want to shop for books. My eyes are everywhere.
That's your reward afterwards, Melanie.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, like there's one up there, How to Argue with a Racist, Tomorrow Sex Will Be Good Again.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the titles are The Panic Years.
Pregnant Then Screwed.
Oh my God, that's genius. See this, I need to just like focus.
Also, you're sitting right in front of the feminist section.
I mean,
as well,
there's a
which is
reason for that.
Yeah.
My Broken Vagina. Yes, let's have a read of that.
I want to use that as a blooper.
Well, it's not even a
Right at the
blooper.
beginning.
You can keep it in. I want it in. This is the intro, man. We're in a bookshop. Yes, we're inside a bookshop, and
Well,
it's so
also-
beautiful.
Is this recording?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Simon Savage,
And I'm Melanie Sykes.
and we are reunited in a bookshop in London for book club.
Yeah, it's a wonderful moment.
It's very exciting. We're in the book bar, which opened during the pandemic and is amazing. I will include some panning shots at the end of this video so that it can whet your appetite. We're very excited. We almost can't concentrate.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful place, and it smells like heaven. And everything about it is gorgeous, even the cups and saucers.
That's how
so
good it is.
we love it. It's a
We
great
do love it.
environment. Yeah, but very distracting because I want to shop for books.
Which we will do afterwards.
Which we will.
Definitely.
Okay.
So, this month, we had you all reading along with us Graham Norton's third novel, Homestretch. There it is. Which is set initially in the 1980s.
Yes.
And is about Connor and a group of his friends who are in a car accident. And Connor, when they find them, basically Connor was driving, and then we follow his story as he's exiled from his community
Yes.
in a small village in Ireland.
Oh, well done, Simon. I'm so glad you did that bit. So brilliantly well put.
I can't remember what the village is called now, though.
Doesn't matter. Well, I mean, it does matter, but it doesn't matter for this.
No, but yeah.
So I haven't read any Graham. I know this is his third novel. I haven't read either of the other two. So it was a new experience for me.
But it was your pick as well.
Yeah.
Some titles I wanted to read. What drew you to it?
Because I haven't read him, because I'm a huge fan of his, I thought it was about time that I got involved. And so I did.
And did you enjoy it?
I did. So I don't think we should start with that, actually. I think we need to nitpick a bit before I get into that. That feels like the conclusion.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because I did, and there was moments of it that I did like, but there's something about, I'll be honest, Graham's, how he articulates things and how he describes things and how he interviews is so much more sparky and interesting and intelligent than I feel that what I read in the book. I felt like his character as I know it wasn't in the book.
Oh, you see, it's really interesting, I think, when you know something about the author or when you see them, because I had it when I read Dawn French's latest novel recently, and I had certain expectations for what that was going to be because of her, and it wasn't what I was expecting in a good way. No, that sounds wrong. That sounds like I was expecting it to be awful. This is the foot in mouth book club. But you know what I mean?
No, I do. I absolutely know what you mean. But there's something. But I just thought it was almost, dare I say, a tad dumbed down.
I thought it was reserved. That's the word
Okay,
I would
that's a
give
better
it.
word.
I thought it was reserved.
Well, it's a more polite word.
I tried to read it last year in Scotland. Something didn't click the first time I was reading it, which I was surprised at because I read A Keeper and I was blown away by A Keeper.
Okay.
A Keeper is still my favourite of his 3 books. Really, really, really love it.
Okay.
What are you laughing at?
Love it.
Is it because I said blown away?
Yes.
It is. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
I was blown away by Graham Norton and I really, really, really loved the book.
Stop bragging.
And then I did find that I miss Marple.
Yeah.
Every time I read a book. And I found that I was mismarketing, and I couldn't work out whether I was mismarketing because it was leading you in that direction in a generous way, or because it was possibly just going in a way that I was expecting the formula of the novel to be. The reveals as it went on didn't feel as revealing as I thought they would be.
What, because you think it was an obvious storyline?
I guessed
Okay.
2 of the twists.
Right, okay, well you're really good at that. As we know, I don't do investigative reading. I just read and take it as read, literally.
We're not setting up a detective agency.
No,
It's
we're
not
not. I'll be
happening.
manning the phones, getting coffee, and that will be my role. So no, I don't do that. So I wasn't. I don't get disappointed or whatever about that dynamic. What do I want to say? There's a million things to say about it, actually.
Well, there is, because what I loved about it is it's so cram full of also, like we were talking earlier, about how it does kind of chart some of the legislation, politics around homosexuality and the legalisation.
Yeah.
Because it starts before it's legal and finishes when weddings are legal.
Yeah.
And I really, really liked that about it. I thought
Yeah.
it was done quite deftly. It wasn't like too much. It wasn't really hammering it home.
No.
But I also I was expecting certain things to happen that didn't happen. Like when we go to New York, I thought there might be something around the AIDS crisis or ripples of that after. But that's me putting that expectation on the book, not the book itself.
Yeah.
But I did like the way it charted how difficult it must be, or must have been, and still is in some ways, to be queer in Ireland.
Yeah. Can I just touch on the New York thing as well? And also, this is Graham's first sort of gay storyline. The other two books didn't have a gay storyline, or did
I
they?
feel like they might have had gay characters, but it wasn't.
But it wasn't
gay,
a story.
No, it wasn't like it wasn't at the forefront. Which is because we should say that's kind of part of the whole book with Connor. Connor, as we read on, I don't think it's a spoiler to say we discover that he's gay.
Yeah, it's not a spoiler.
Because it happens as soon as he moves to. I was so thrilled that Liverpool was in a book. I know it's really bad to say that, but
no, but it was a brief, because he moves there, doesn't he, first? I wanted to say, just because it's a book about a gay guy, it's a gay storyline, does not mean that it has to have that gay narrative and AIDS has to be in it.
No.
And I think that's the point, is that you just want these stories to just be as general and as across the board as any story. Any story.
And that's
it
why I
doesn't
think
always have to be the history of and every single element of the history of gaydom. I don't even know if that's a word.
gayness.
Gayness.
Well, also, it's not a queer historical academic text.
Exactly.
Like, it's a really delightful, fun read. I did wonder actually if partly there was a little bit of. I wondered if there was a reserved nature to it, because I felt like we didn't get sort of the insights of Connor's sexuality because it might be too graphic. I felt like that was held off, and I wondered if Graham was thinking about his readership and like not going too far or being too shocking.
The shocking reveal scene is quite explicit.
That's true.
I liked it.
Going back to
I didn't
away.
like it. It's quite abusive, but you know what? You know me. I like erotica.
You wait till you see what I'm reading this summer. No, I'm joking.
Oh God! No, I just wanted to say as well, and I have to look at my notes because I can't remember. But John Boyce's book, The Heart's
John Boyne's The Heart's Invisible Furies.
Invisible Furies. I kept comparing, in a way, probably unfairly, this book to that, and you can't, because it's probably one of the best books I've ever read. It is epic, and it goes to New York, and it does the whole thing, and for me, when I gave that to Paul O'Grady. He'd never read it, and I gave it to Paul O'Grady, and he rang me, and he was just like, "Oh my God!" I mean, it is mind-blowingly good.
Oh God, that's a phenomenal. That is a kind of a queer epic.
But what I'm saying is, I do believe that Graham Norton and the intelligence that that man has could write something like that. And for me, this is a watered-down version of that. And so it's slightly disappointing me. So what I feel like is that he is catering for a big market of people.
I think it's that audience. It's that thing about. I felt that he was thinking about the audience he was writing for, or writing to. And also, I think that's why sometimes it was more reserved. Do you know what I mean? Because I think his demographic, his readers, is probably. I don't want to say the granny brigade.
Well, you can, and your whispering doesn't change anything. It's being taped right now. Taped. Oh God, I'm such an old bag. It's being recorded.
But going back to sort of the.
Well, can I just tell you that makes me so disappointed?
But I don't know if that's true. It's
No,
just
it's
how
an-
I felt as a reader.
That it's for an older demographic that don't want to be shocked by
I just felt it was a
explicit
bit more
gay
reserved.
sex.
Yeah, that's what I felt like it was. But also at the same time, it's the kind of book that there was enough in there that it could actually be a very clever ploy in the fact that if you're writing to an audience that might be a bit shocked by that, you give them a little taster of it, so that they then go off and read more. That they then can go off and read a John Boyne book, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah, give the audience the truth. How about that?
I didn't feel like it was untruthful.
I'm taking it.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
taking
okay.
it further than
To the extreme.
I'm taking it to the extreme. I just think it's a tepid view.
Okay. Well, on that note,
But that's not to say I didn't enjoy it, because I did.
let's talk about some things that we liked about it a lot. 'Cause
Yes.
I feel we've given it going over.
No,
and we've not even
I've
talked
given
about
it
the
going
plot.
over, but that is what we.
Yeah, that's what we do.
That's
We're
what
here
we
to
do.
talk
So
about books,
I'm not
frankly
going to
and honestly.
apologise for
No.
this. Let's get on with
But-
talking about how good it is,
so
because it is good in parts.
What I loved about it was, one thing I love books about siblings. I didn't have siblings until I was 16, so I find that dynamic really, really fascinating. And I was sort of, because my mum was so young when she had me, my aunties and uncles are kind of like my siblings, so I have this sort of middle ground where I just find that relationship really fascinating.
Okay.
And I did love the way that this book starts off with Connor when he's sent away, and then focuses on Ellen, because actually it focuses on all the families involved in that car crash, which I thought was done brilliantly. The way he we have that dramatic moment, and then it kind of goes out to all these characters without going too into detail. It was done really. I thought that was really deftly done.
Yeah.
I love the term deftly.
I know,
say it
I
a
was
lot.
going to say, I like it. I've heard you say it a couple of times, I'm going to nick it.
I love it deftly.
Definitely.
And then what I loved is that he writes about how Ellen's response to this brother who has done this supposedly done this dreadful thing, and how she's almost relieved that he goes, and it's how then she becomes almost the centre of attention of the family, but also then Martin comes into her life, who was he was one of the survivors of the crash, and they start this relationship. I thought the way the storylines went off in those two different directions was done really, really well, because you've got Ireland and you've got Elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Do you know the problem I have with it? Sorry, I'm going back to a negative. Well, let's discuss it. So, how you get ostracised for an accident. Would that really happen?
I think
Wouldn't people have ultimate empathy for this young boy who wasn't under the influence, he'd lost control of the car and killed people? Where's the empathy? Where's the nurturing? Is it realistic?
In 1987,
Yeah.
I don't think people would have. And the only reason I say that is my dad used to be a biker. He was in a car crash, and the guy on the back of the bike was killed, and he was massively ostracised for that. Blamed on it when it wasn't his fault. So that, and then also it was around the same. Well, it was not long after my mum got pregnant, and she got ostracised in my hometown as a teenage mum, and that was in the early 80s.
Where was this? What town was that?
Matlock Bath. I love it now.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
are you joking me?
No.
So this is I need to hear this, because I'm thinking it's just not realistic, but this shit happens.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think as well, teenagers get such a rough ride.
Pardon the pun.
Oh, it's all gone wrong. Anyway, teenagers get a rough time.
Yeah.
And I think that still happens now. That there's a perception that teenagers are trouble and that they're no good, and it's just a horrible way of looking at society. But I think in that situation, because of the grief of three families and the smallness of that town, plus all the the fact it was the 80s, all that, I do think that's possible.
Okay, can I ask you another question there? As a gay man, would you, as a gay teenager, rather accept that you had accidentally killed people over admitting that you were gay? I mean, that is the choice that he makes.
But I wasn't brought up in that era, in that Catholic situation.
Yeah.
So if I was, possibly, because...
And it was illegal to be homosexual
Yeah.
at that time as well.
And also, as we were talking about earlier, it's that internalised homophobia that I think is within anyone who's queer at some point. You know you're different, you know you're on the outside of society, so therefore actually it can build some of the, I know that I had some really homophobic feelings at some points, as a gay man myself, that's weird. But
It's
that's
not,
the
well, no,
psychology
apparently
of
it's
it.
not weird, because he does, actually, Graham does mention that halfway through the book, that actually this wasn't just an acceptance, a choice between those two things. It was actually how he felt about himself.
Yes, yeah, and it's because
the shame and not wanting to be gay, and it was a judgment on himself.
But all of us as teenagers go through some, I'm not going to say self-loathing, that's too dramatic, but we soul-searching, and we go through trying to work out who we are and where we're different and where we're not different, and if you're different, why are you different, and how does that work, and what does that mean people will perceive of you. I still have it today where people think that coming out happens once. It doesn't, it happens all the time. You know, if somebody's watching this video for the first time, I've just come out to them.
I get you, yeah.
It's not a one-off thing.
Yeah.
And that makes it incredibly hard and quite a scary thing to do, because, you know, there's this whole thing about, I have a real issue around National Coming Out Day, because I don't think it should be forced to happen. It's a very, very personal choice. And this book, I think, does look at that. I also, on the other extreme, loved when Finbar was described as a lazy gay. Because as you know, I am one of those. We've discussed it. And I do think he covers very cleverly a spectrum of the gay male experience, from someone who flees and learns about, or not even flees actually, somebody who's evicted from their town and learns about it, somebody who stays closeted and carries on a straight life, and then generationally later, someone who's free to be.
Yeah.
Although isn't that bothered about it. That's what I loved as well. Finbar isn't bothered about pride necessarily. He's not, and I think sometimes it's expected, like, if you're gay, you must go to pride. You have you don't have to.
That's interesting. Yeah. You don't have to belong to a club.
No.
To just be who you are.
But what I really loved, again, slight spoilers, is once Connor returns, the acceptance was really well done, because he was worried about the whole time that he's going to be ostracised. But that shows how awful it must have been in the 80s for that.
Well, it's a big decision. It's
It is.
definitely a huge decision to make. And yeah, I guess as a straight woman, it's just mind-blowing that that's how bad it was. It's horrendous, and it's
But I
not
don't
even
think
that long
it's changed
ago.
that. I don't even think it's got that much better.
What, in Ireland, do you
No,
think?
but I also still think we're so much more accepting about being gay now, but we're still nowhere near where we should be. I mean, like, there's still honour killings going on around the world. There's still, you know what I mean, we're just not there yet. It's easier, but it's not easy. There's a difference, I think. And this book, I think, looks at that. But also, I think it does it in, compared to, say, John Boyne, it might be more that it's a lighter touch,
Okay,
rather
that's a better way
than
of putting it.
rather than purposeful. It might be like, here it is. I don't want to give you all of that darkness.
You see, I didn't see that as darkness when I read John's book. I saw it. I just thought it was a beautiful read with all elements of emotions.
But I think it's interesting. This has become the comparison book, because I've read
Sorry,
that as well.
I'm so sorry
No,
that
but
I
you do
couldn't
that.
help it,
But this
because
is real. When you read a book, you compare it to what else you've read.
sometimes, like when I've never done this on book club. This is the first time I'm doing it on book club, comparing it to something that, to me.
But that's human nature. So I was talking the other day about how, isn't it weird how when you read a book, how you feel about the end of that book can seep into the next book you pick up. That's what reading does. And I think the other thing I was going to say was, with John Boyne's, I find he's more dramatic. I found the endings of those chapters really high drama, which makes you keep on reading.
Yeah.
This isn't like that.
No.
There's a dramatic start. There are moments of sort of jumps. Like, I loved the storyline between Connor and his boyfriend Tim,
Yeah.
because it isn't a perfect relationship. It's a long-term relationship, but it looks at the pitfalls of that. And I thought that was done really, really well. I think the only thing I'm trying to think there's something that I wanted more of. I just feel like, because there's so many characters potentially, I sort of wanted the book to maybe be more epic, but that's me putting that on.
Yeah, I thought there were so many moments to be explored when Connor moves to London, and I wanted to hear more about his London life before New York.
Yeah.
But it sort of felt like it was fast tracked slightly.
I did enjoy how he did that sometimes though. Like, there's that bit where it's like, right, he's gonna have to go to Liverpool, and then suddenly he's in Liverpool. There's no faffing about.
Oh yeah, that's
And then
great.
he said something else.
Yeah.
There's no faffing about. There's no fannying about either.
No, there's definitely none of that.
Well, actually, for one of the characters later, there is.
Oh yeah, when she starts doing
Yes.
it with a gardener. I know, I thought that was...
I
Do you
nearly
know-
said we've all been there.
No, but I know people who have. I haven't personally, but yeah.
Do you think it is that the comparison thing though? Because I do think that's a fair point. But actually, I will say some people who read it along with us. So, for example, Carrie, she said that she found it quite predictable. So she could see what was going to happen with, for example, Martin, or she could see what had happened in the past, which I also did. But I thought that was actually Graham being generous and being like, I want you to feel like you're on it as I'm on it. But sometimes that can seem predictable, even though it's not. It's just like a gentle guidance.
Well, I tell you where I just really, what's the word? I reeled, or I don't know. What's the word when a horse goes like that?
Were you shook?
Shook. Is that what it is? When he meets Finbar in the bar. I just thought, oh, come on.
I don't like the coincidence in fiction, and also I guess what the twist was going to be there. So when there was that stomach stroking scene, I was a bit like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That I just saw, that just pulled me up, and I just thought, nah, sorry, don't buy that. That's just too crowbarred, and I hate that.
yeah, you're not a fan of crowbarring.
No, I'm really not.
And I was like that with, what was the book where I felt things were crowbarred? My Dark Vanessa. Sometimes I felt, what's his face, Lolita was crowbarred in a bit too much.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Get your crowbar out for Lolita. She's going to be in it.
So that was a moment where I just thought, give me a break. So that wasn't good. But then I carried on, and I did love the reveal about Martin and the storyline that had happened pre-car crash. I thought that was brilliantly done.
Yeah.
Again, obviously, it was quite explicit as well. And it made sense then, because...
Had you guessed that was...
I guessed that something had gone on. But I didn't think that something had happened between them, but I knew that
That's
Martin
really
was...
interesting, because I did.
I didn't, but I'm not Mrs. Marple.
No, but that to me felt... That's where I think I can sort of agree with almost predictability, because I felt like... Because when you get a reveal on page 260, and you've got another 65 pages to go, my brain's like, something else is coming. But, again, I think that's him giving the reader something else to try and work out.
Oh, for me, that leaves me cold.
But that, I think, is exciting.
Oh, how interesting.
I think that's quite generous, because what the author is doing is giving you that intrigue. Because it's got, I think what I like about his novels as well, all three of them, is they are mysteries. There is always some mystery at the bottom of them.
Okay, that's interesting. I will go back and read the other ones, actually. I definitely will. Because maybe I just need the perspective of the other two. This was like straight in Graham Cole.
Well, I still think as well, I will be honest, like this out of the three that I've read, I think for me, interestingly, I was excited about him writing about gay characters, but it's the one I think, if I had to do them in preference, I think it would be my least favourite that I've read. A Keeper, his second one, is my absolute favourite, one of my favourite books of the year that I read it. I recommend it all the time. This, I wonder if it's because I've read a lot of queer stories before.
Right.
The only thing I will say that I really, really enjoyed, and it doesn't happen a lot in books about queer people, is there is hope at the end. There's a cheeky little bit of hope at a bar, and I thought, which is out because we're in the book bar. But I thought that was really good, because that does not happen a lot in queer novels. They are generally all about how awful it is to be queer. And this has that, but also some positives.
Okay, right. I don't know, because I haven't read many. So so that's good. I'm glad that he does that, because it is to be celebrated.
Yeah.
Love is love, and that's it, and that's great, and I like that. But there was just, I don't know, it was, the last third of the book, it felt like he was wrapping it up, and it felt like he was ending it, and then something would happen,
That's
and then
what
he
I
would
mean
end
about-
it, and then something would happen. I'm like, oh my God, how many times am I going to feel like this is coming to an end when I know it's not? Because there's still a bit of a chunk to read. So I just thought, what are you doing?
Oh, I love that, because that, for me, I quite like, because I'm like, well, what's going to be next? What's going to be next?
Okay, I don't.
And
I
I
like
wonder
a
if it's that
straight
Miss
storyline.
Marple thing again.
Maybe. Do you know what? I guess I'm disappointed in the sparkiness of Graham. And by the way, as you know, because we've talked about it, I'm absolutely obsessed with RuPaul's Drag Race at the moment. I have watched the British version and now I'm like,
have you watched any of Australia yet?
Not yet, I'm saving it.
I did ask you to, Melanie.
No, but I also said I'm going to wait till it's all there for me, because I devour it like it's chocolate digestives. There's no relation to why I'm saying that. I just like chocolate digestives.
Is it because you're thinking of hobnobs? Other biscuits are available.
So Graham is one of the judges on RuPaul's Drag Race, and one of the beautiful things I love about seeing Graham in that role, and Alan Carr for that matter, although Alan is camp, but they're actually them being gay men talking about gay stuff, and you don't really see that in their chat shows and their game shows. They're just a person doing a job, which is great, and that's important, obviously. But what I love is seeing their personalities and who they are as men in these roles that they're doing on that. And so I want that from Graham in his book, and I think he's holding back because Graham has lived a life, and I want some of that in that book.
That's a mission, Graham. If you see this, if you watch this, that's a mission.
Yeah, I don't want to water down Graham Norton. I want to see him warts and all.
I did find some of Finbar quite funny.
I loved Finbar. He was carefree and fabulous.
But a lazy gay, which I enjoyed. But that's where I think for me, like, I can totally see the comparisons with John Boyne. I think they are very different novels, but I think what I loved about John Boyne's was the drama. It was a real history, and also you felt like you had lived with that person for their entire life. That was amazing. This, I think, is a much more gentle, deft, favourite word, and I think that's actually something that I enjoyed in the fact that it isn't overly dramatic, and I think a lot of the time gay stories can be very dramatic.
Right, okay.
It's almost like we're drama queens, so therefore they have to be dramatic. Do you know what I mean? And this didn't feel like that. But I do think it was more reserved than I expected.
Okay, so I know you're being devil's advocate with some of the things that you say, and I appreciate that. But the whole point of writing a novel is so that it is drama. It's a drama. So dramatic doesn't really come into it. Just be explicit in the drama.
But I think sometimes it can go into drama overkill with some...
Yeah, maybe for some people, and therefore we'd be having a conversation about that book and saying, oh, it's over dramatic. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I like the fact this wasn't overly dramatic. It was dramatic, but it didn't, for me, none of it felt false. It all felt, apart from the
New York thing.
Yeah, Finbar, that. And I did, like I said, I loved the storyline with Connor and Tim, although I really, really wanted Connor to get with the barman in New York, who kind of was flirting with him and stuff, and who Tim had found really attractive, and Tim split us up with, and I was like, please let them be together, just a little revenge story somewhere in there. That's what I wanted.
You need to write. Talk about dramatic.
I don't think that was dramatic at all. A little bit of revenge.
No, but I think the whole thing, all the relationships were interesting between, parents, between school friends, between community, between even people that wouldn't go into the pub, and that he lived over when he was a kid, and there was loads of it that was good. Like you say, there was no big dramatisation. It was just a kind of a straight story, a straight gay story.
There was a couple of quibbles that I had with it. Where's quibble come from?
Come on, tell us about your quibbles.
So one of my quibbles was I felt like some of the settings weren't depicted as well as I would have liked. So I couldn't quite picture the Irish village. Liverpool didn't sing like I thought. Like, they go to the Philharmonic, which, as I live near Liverpool, I know it really well. It's got coppered ceilings. I mean, it's so grand, it's untrue.
Is it?
It was just described as a really nice pub. And I was like, and then New York, I felt like there was a bit of an assumption, well, you all know New York, so I don't need to depict it.
Yes.
So that was where I sort of, I don't know, because in his other books, I felt like I know where I am, and the place has almost been as big a character as, but this one moves around a lot, I guess. But I do think he gets people's mannerisms and dialogue spot on. I think he's a really good observer of how people talk and what they do and how people's personalities can be shifting.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Well, that's really great. I agree with that for sure.
So, there we go. Quite a diverse range of thoughts on.
I don't think I'll be invited on Graham Norton's radio show anytime soon. Sorry, Graham.
Maybe you will if you read A Keeper.
I'll read A Keeper. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I will definitely go back and read the other two for sure. Yeah, I will. Because I
Okay.
love Graham.
Just love this particular book. But honestly, like I've said, it's.
No, I
my least
liked it. I
favourite
didn't
of the
love
three.
it. You know,
Okay.
I liked it. I didn't feel like it was a waste of my time.
Well, that's a very good thing. Very backhanded compliment. Maybe that quote can be put on the next
Can you
print
imagine on the
run.
back of his book? And interestingly, John Boyne says deeply moving. He is a magnificent writer. So John gave it his seal of approval, and who am I to
And
judge?
Pandora Sykes, any relative,
No.
said it was beautiful and heartbreaking. So
Yeah.
there we go. Right, do you want to reveal the next book choice, which
We are
will be
doing.
Oh,
Yeah, go
sorry.
on.
No, I was just
No,
going to say, we will be doing for Independent Bookshop Week, which runs from the 19th to the 26th of June. So make sure that you support your local independent bookshop or one further afield, like the Book Bar, which I'm going to keep mentioning.
Yay! So we're going to be reading Shuggy Bane by Douglas Stewart.
Which won the Booker. It's it's his debut novel and it won the Booker.
I mean, how wonderful is that?
And it's another queer tale.
I'm squinting.
And I think, actually, having the discussion we've had about this, I predict this is quite an epic.
Yes, I predict
So,
it is too.
right.
I chose this.
You did. Because it's up for the Independent Bookshop Awards. So that's why we're reading. Because I've got to say, we are the official book club for Independent Bookshop Week.
Oh yeah, that big piece of information, and it's an honour as well. I
And
feel
it's-
so thrilled.
Well, they've asked us back.
They've asked us back.
So we
It's
can't have done a
incredible.
bad job
No, I
last
know. I'm really
time.
excited about it. And do you know what? And regarding this book, on the back it says it's both beautiful and brutal. And for me, that's what I want.
Do you know what? I think that is a term that I would describe. The books that we've had the most success with, like, and that we've loved, have been beautiful but brutal.
Yeah,
Very much like us.
I'd say.
Yeah, I'd agree. So we will be back for Independent Bookshop Week. But until then, let us know in the comments down below your thoughts. And we will speak to you soon.
Oh, it's been lovely. Thanks, Simon, and thank you for watching.
And we've been back in real life together. It's been so lovely.
It's
right.
amazing.
Bye.
Bye.